Hey, Gary. Welcome to the Big Motor Small Blade podcast. I'm Seth Dolby, joined by Buddy Pulley and Anthony Dayumcott. And we just, and by just, I mean last night, watched the Southern 500, the Cookout Southern 500. And I'm not going to mince words. This is one of the worst races I've ever watched. It pissed me off to no end. Okay, I'm being exaggerating a little bit. But
I was about to say.
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I hold Darlington. I'm not bullshitting at all today. We're getting it out there. I have hated the next gen car at Darlington from the very beginning, and it has not changed. In fact, in some ways, it's gotten worse. I think yesterday was significantly worse, mostly due to, I would imagine it because it was hotter, but I don't understand why there's this narrative. And the last time I checked, the Gluck poll was at like 91% yes. And it pisses me off to no end because I don't know what race y'all watched. The pass for the win was the most next gen thing I've ever seen. A guy stayed out on old tires. The dominant car had to put himself in the wrong lane or the bad lane, and then got caught side by side with another car. And then here comes 46th place to fucking pass him. It was the most next gen thing I've ever seen. I don't like it. The tires take 30 laps to fall off. We get 10 or 15 laps of good racing, and then they pit again, and then we don't have anything else for the next 30, 35 laps. I again don't understand how this. We have a problem. I swear to God, we have a problem, and we're never going to fix it because for some reason we can't admit that there's a problem. Red tires here, the red compound or whatever, would do wonders to this racetrack. It would make it look like old Darlington.
Tire.
No, not the option. Fuck that. I'm not calling them that. They're reds and yellows. That's what it is. But yeah, I don't know. That's my whole spiel.
All right. So, by the way, I'm Buddy Pulley.
I'm very upset, as you can tell.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. We've come out the gate strong. Yeah. This wasn't a great race. No, I don't understand the sentiment around it. It was Kyle Larson kicked their teeth in for the first however many hundreds of laps, which is fine. That's not necessarily what made it a bad race, but I literally said to you today, I was like, this race is going to suck. Like, they're going to run the top and the bottom's going to be next to useless. Pretty much was. And yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, it doesn't, because it seemed like the next gen was getting better at Darlington. But this was definitely a step back from Darlington next gen races, and which is saying something because it wasn't a terribly high bar. Yeah, I mean, it was so hard to pass. Even with tire discrepancy, it was way harder to pass than it should have been. And it's just, it was just a frustrating 500 miles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people think the race was good because of the pass through Chase Briscoe, the 3-wide pass. Which, don't get me wrong, it was a great pass. I mean, that takes balls to do.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was a new winner, who we haven't seen a victory lane in a while, another winless streak snapped. And the fact that it was a duel between Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch in the same way that it was in the Xfinity race a couple years ago. And I think a lot of fans, and honestly, I won't even limit it to fans. I feel like there are some people who work within NASCAR that aren't, drivers. Like, I feel like some team members probably feel a certain type of way, maybe some media members, and where they let the finish of a race overshadow the rest of the race.
Like Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck. I mean, put it out there. I listened to the teardown this morning. That pissed me off. And they were like, "This is an all-timer." I was like, "Well, it was a timer. It wasn't an all-timer by any means.
I'm glad I decided to skip that one today.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I'm surprised I was able to even understand them with NASCAR's dick so far down their throat. Like,
I mean, to be clear, there were, like I said, there were some classic Darlington moments, but I don't think that should be the deciding factor in what makes a good race. Just in the way that, like, if Kyle Larson went out and dog walked the field, that I don't think it should be listed as a bad race, right?
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a balance of both. And I think there's just a little bit of a misunderstanding because nowadays, what do we like? Everything we saw at Daytona. Surprise winner, an underdog win with a lot of crashes, cars going upside down, highlight reel stuff for the next 20 years. And it's a great race. What do we not like? What we saw last year at Watkins Glen or the Indy Road Course. Caution-free racing. Everyone's spread out. Nobody with a chance to pass, but at least it was a natural race. So there's a balance to finding both. And I feel like too often we let the finish of races overshadow what really happened during the race. And especially for crown jewels like the Southern 500, where it was a long and grueling 500 miles. So, I mean, like I said, I personally don't think it was the worst Darlington race, but I don't think it was 91% good, like the good race poll says.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Kyle Larson dog walking the field. Yeah, I mean that happens. I mean, now if he dog walked the field like William Byron did at Watkins Glen, where you couldn't pass the guy, and that was the reason he dominated, then yeah, it'd be a problem. But Kyle Larson had a fast car. Now, whether could he have been passed? Been tough. It would have been tough. I don't get the sentiment. I mean, Daytona, you mentioned, I thought that was a great Daytona race. It had all the excitement, everything that anybody could ever want in a race. And then we come here and it's really none of that. There wasn't great racing. It wasn't like there was any hugely spectacular moments other than Chase Briscoe making it 3 wide, which, okay, that's one pass on a restart in a 500-mile race. That's it. That's what puts it over the top.
We had a big crash. Thanks to Josh Berry shoving it 3 wide.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, that does make NASCAR fans think it was a great race.
I mean, honestly,
for real,
man, the thing that was missing for me the most out of this Southern 500 was we needed it at 500 miles, man. Like, I mean, I really needed an overtime there. Then I felt like I was honestly robbed. I think legally, if you haven't crashed 50% of the field, you should always do 5 overtimes. Add an overtime until you crash at least 50% of the field, because it's not fair to the fans that came out and paid to be here to not see at least 50% of the field crash. Obviously, shout out to Tony Stewartt.
I was going to say, okay, Tony Stewartt.
Yeah. Shout out to Tony Stewartt on that one. And, well, ironically, he won the fucking race. Or his car did. His car won the race. But again, it's like even the exciting thing you mentioned, which was, again, Briscoe making it 3 wide. Great. He made it stick. Great move. I'm not trying to take anything away from Chase Briscoe. And he ran a great race all day. He was second the majority of the race behind Kyle Larson. So I'm really not going to take anything away from him. But it's just like, you look at the circumstances that lead up to it, and it's like, yeah, that was going to happen. It was. The moment Ross Chastain got a good restart, which
should not have happened.
Shouldn't have happened because the tires should have been destroyed by then. That's again, it all goes back to the tires. It's absurd how long the tires hold up at Darlington of all places.
Dude, you know how confident I was, and I'm not. Well,
we all were.
I was going back to something else, but I mean, we talked about this the other day. Denny Hamlin had, 10-lap fresher tires than Martin Truex Jr. in 2017. And unlapped himself and got back and won the race. That's how much tires meant. And the track was that the track has aged twice as much as it as much as it had as much as it.
It's been 7 years. It's been 7 years
since that happened.
Yeah.
So it just
Buddy's buffering. Apologies.
yeah. Yeah, it's a long weekend. Weekend.
Gary.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just Ross shouldn't have been able to hold it. And it's just Kyle Busch should have blown Chase Briscoe's doors off. I'm sorry. 2-lap pressure tires. I don't care. I mean, it should have happened. Like, the cars, we have a taper spacer on the car. I can deal with 670 horsepower. But you can't even wear the damn tires as much as you normally would at Darlington because you can't get off the corner. Like, and it's just the most frustrating thing. It's the most glaring example of what's wrong with the next gen car, because Darlington is everything that makes NASCAR great in one racetrack, and specifically this race. And, almost all the elements that we would pinpoint as examples of that were not there in this race. I just want to know the number of hours after to fucks to give ratio for Tony Stewart and his team winning the Cup race.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a funny tweet last night after the race where someone was like, "Yeah, this will be, boy, Tony Stewart will be excited to find out about this when they tell him in a few, when he finds out in a few days." So apparently he found out because he made a tweet about it, I think. So either that or his PR tweeted about it and he still doesn't know about it. So I don't know, but
probably more likely.
Yeah, but it's cool. I will say it is cool for the team though. I mean, that team is the definition of on life support. I mean, they have 10 races before they are no longer. And Chase Briscoe went out and raced his way to the playoffs, and it wasn't by accident because, like you said, Seth, he was the second best car all night behind the 5 car. So like he went out and earned it, and now they're going to go playoff racing for probably about 3 races, maybe 6, but still to do that with a team that it very clearly knows that in 10 weeks it's all over and they got to find new jobs, most of them at least. This is a huge win for that team.
Yeah, and like you say, 3 to 6 races. I mean, don't forget, Chase Briscoe made the round of 8 in 2022.
So I said 3-2-6, maybe.
Yeah,
he could be dark horse.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm curious to see what kind of support he gets from the other 3 teams going into the last 10, and if they get any more support from Ford, because apparently they've gotten pretty much no support from Ford after they announced they were shutting down. So like you said, you can't take anything away from Chase Briscoe. I was in nothing less than, flabbergasted that he didn't do something completely moronic and cost himself the win, because that's just kind of what he does. But he didn't, and GG, dude. You took, like you said, a team of life support and won the Southern 500 with it. So yeah, still wouldn't have won the race if Ross hadn't stayed out, and he wouldn't have passed Kyle Larson, and Larson couldn't pass shit. So
yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. It's just okay, I do a little bit. I'm just tired of this acceptance of mediocrity that we have right now for some reason. And I wouldn't even call this mediocre. I'd call it on the bad end of the spectrum. But across the board, we have this just acceptance of, yeah, it's fine. The racing's terrible for 99% of it, but golly gee, something cool happened at the end. So that's an A+ in the good race poll. And I don't appreciate it. It's making everyone else who doesn't agree, well, both of us, I guess, that don't agree, feel like we're not going to have a series we actually want to watch in a couple of years. Actually, it's barely a series I want to watch right now, if I'm being completely honest. I would love for it to become that again.
Anthony, as a journalist, I want to ask you this. So winning you're in, has obviously that's been the topic of conversation for really the last like 4 weeks, specifically the last 2 with Burton and Briscoe winning. I said this last week. I feel like winning your end steals some of the storylines away from what could be, the battle for the regular season title, the battle for the playoffs, and then just what's lost in all of this is the truly triumphant win that was Chase Briscoe or Harrison Burton. I feel like Harrison Burton was sold a lot more than Briscoe's, but it's all about it is all about, okay, cool. I compared it last week. I don't know if you listened, that it compared it to a kid who gets a toy and is like, wow, I can't wait to play with this with my toys I get in the future. And it's like you don't it feels like we don't get to focus on how big of a win this was for Stewartt Haas Racing, Chase Briscoe, and the entire team. We have to focus on, oh, by the way, he's going to be in the playoffs when he's going to get knocked out in 3 weeks. So,
yeah, I mean, I personally, I do hate it in that regard for both Harrison Burton and Chase Briscoe. I think they both have fought uphill battles. At least, I mean, both of them, at least since 2023. Really, I'd throw 2022 in for both of them. I mean, Briscoe had a phenomenal race at Phoenix and won that race, but I mean, aside from that, it's not been ideal for him since coming up to the Cup Series. Same with Harrison Burton. So the fact that they went out and took it for Burton, it was a Cinderella story, in my opinion. I mean, Briscoe we could probably call it more of like a long time coming. It's so awesome. I mean, there were so many storylines last week after Harrison Burton won. It was Wood Brothers 100th win. They finally got it after 7 years of trying. It's the 8th decade that they've won a race in NASCAR. The oldest team in NASCAR is in Victory Lane, and it's basically the track it's the most successful at. And all that was overshadowed because, we have a guy who's 34th, dead last in points, in full-time points, who's going to go playoff racing. Same with this week. You have a team who's on life support 10 weeks from the end. No momentum all year. Any momentum that Josh Berry or Noah Gragson got, not Ryan Preece, but at the 4 of the 10, any momentum they got dashed and stuff like that. Like, there was no consistency throughout the year. Chase Briscoe goes out and has one of the best races of his career, even if he finishes second. And wins the race, and the storyline should be this team has no quit. They could easily throw in the towel and just get to the end and let
hanging banners, Seth. Hanging banners.
Yeah,
it'd be less funny to buy it now. It actually did hang a banner.
Yeah, and I mean, that gets overshadowed because we have a guy who's 21st in points make the playoffs over people like Chris Buescher or Bubba Wallace or Kyle Busch, or Kyle Larson didn't win the race, and because of that, Tyler Reddick won the regular season championship and all that. Everything is the issue. I hate it because everything's centered around the playoffs, and it's from the green flag of the Daytona 500. We're talking about playoffs. We're never talking about this was a big win for this team or first career win for this person. It's always about, can this person make the playoffs? I remember Chris Buescher's first win in that rain-shortened race at Pocono. It was a huge win for him and Front Row. And literally the next day, they were like, well, he's not the top. That was when they had the top 30 rules. So like, well, he's not the top 30. He won't be able to go playoff racing. What are we going to – now we got to watch him go, try to fight his way in the top 30. I was like, can't they just enjoy it?
Yeah.
Can't we just enjoy it for what it is? And it was a great win due to whatever, strategy, luck, the drive of your life. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, I do, from a media perspective, it does get tiring to talk about the playoffs and, this driver, that driver, can they make the playoffs? Can they not make the playoffs when this great situation happened? And on the other side of that, that finish yesterday is what NASCAR wanted, to keep the playoff system in place. That's what they were hoping for when they instituted it. They wanted this game. This was the true difference. Aside from winning in the round of 8 to make the championship 4, like winning in the penultimate race to make the championship 4, and then going on to win the championship. Like this was like the ultimate walk off that they wanted. They wanted 2 drivers with their bikes against the wall. With they have to win to get in. There's no possible way of pointing in, and they're fighting for a playoff spot. They're fighting for Kyle Busch a win streak. They're fighting for their teams, who both of them not having great years. And that
it's not a bug of the system; it's a perk.
Yeah,
it was considered that way.
Yeah, it was the ultimate. It was the ultimate walk off for Chase Briscoe, which again, phenomenal race for him. Great move for the lead and the win. But like, all we could talk about was, it's a walk off. He won the Southern 500. I feel like that's a little bit more important at this moment than making the playoffs. Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm definitely a little bit tired of everything having to be connected back to the playoffs. I don't know if that answers your original question,
it does.
But that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was talking to Chuck this morning, and he was basically asking, he's like, I bet I know why you didn't like this race very much, but like why exactly? Try and put it into words. And I basically told him what I said on here, because I'm just watching the race. When I'm watching the Southern 500, I don't give a shit about the storylines. I don't care about this, that, and the other. I'll be honest, the only time I thought about the regular season title a couple times, and that was just at the end of the stages when I had a moment to breathe. I did the math based off who finished where. That was it. That was the only time I ever really thought about it. It didn't occur to me till after the race that Reddick was even still in it, because I'd forgotten he was there, to be completely honest. I was like, he shit himself. 2 hours ago, I was like, he shit himself. And then after that, I completely forgot about it. And then Chuck was basically telling me, he's like, I've got the radio on. I got this and the other. We got all the storylines. And I was like, see, that's the problem. That's literally the problem. You should be able to just watch the race with no context, not have to know anything about it, and it be a good race. And if you strip everything else, all the stupid stuff we have right now out of NASCAR, it's bland. It's really bland. And I think that's the worst thing I can say for it. Even when it gets crazy, it's maybe I'm numb. Maybe I'm jaded or something. I don't know. It feels bleh. That's the only way I can describe it. Because when Carson Hocevar wrecked or spun out, or whichever, he spun out and then he wrecked like 20 laps later or whatever, I just kind of sighed. I was like, here we go. Because like this race was of a low enough quality for 3/4 of it that I was like, this race deserves to be a dog walking that no one remembers. And of course, a NASCAR race had to break out. And again, it didn't feel special in any way. It just felt like a NASCAR race broke out. We drive around for 3 hours. The guys know how to do it. In this race, like 3 hours. And then the last 45 minutes, they just forget. They just forget how to drive. I don't know. The only crazy move was Josh Berry going 3 wide. That whatever, that was goofy. Shouldn't have done that. Nothing else was crazy. They just wrecked. Yeah. It's so vanilla. I say that. I like vanilla. It's so water. It's water. Can't it be like, I don't know, grape juice?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. It's for me. I don't know. It's you hope something will get. I'm hoping we get a better tire for next year, and that would help this race significantly. Like horsepower or whatever, that if you put tires that wear a little bit more on there, it would be better. It would be seriously better. So,
the tires should be like shredded after 15 laps. I mean, not like literally falling apart, but like their grip level should be basically half of what it was brand new.
Here's also this. There's no tire conservation.
Yeah, because you don't need to.
It's just go until the end of the stage, and then we're gonna put tires on it, and then it's
like that 30 laps before the switch flips, and you can see it, like you can visually see it at the track. I said this I think last year sometime. You can literally see it. You'll see like one car get squirrely off of 4, and you're like, oh, there it goes. It did it. And then all of a sudden it's racy for 10 to 15 laps, and then they pit. But it's just like, and you watch guys, like you'll watch specifically, I pay attention to Kyle Larson a lot. No secret on this show. You'll watch him run the bottom, run the middle, run high, trying to make a difference. And it just doesn't do anything. Like,
and the pace is so slow when it's warm out.
Yeah.
That they're not going fast enough and not to really wear the tire. That's why the spring race was like it was. Like that's why the cooler races with this car are typically better, is because they're going a lot faster, and so they're wearing the tires more. And that is the most backwards thing. Like, I mean, we went with the Florence the other night, and they put the F45s back on the late models in the car store. And I mean, it was a full on tire conservation, and it was a chess match the entire night. Whereas this wasn't. This was. I
bet Jeff Burton loved it.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Yeah. So obviously Chase Briscoe makes it. Who else? Chris Buescher misses. Bubba Wallace misses. Ross Chastain misses. Kyle Busch misses. Chris Buescher, 1/1000th of a second short of making the playoffs.
Yep. And
that's
Tyler
pretty
Reddick hitting him at Darlington.
That too. But I mean, I think it's more.
Yes.
1/1000th of a second short. It's pretty fucking.
That's pretty close. Kyle Busch was 7/1000ths of a second away from making it.
Yeah. There's that. Bubba, obviously, they just came on too strong, too late, and had everything go against them.
Yeah.
Ross Chastain, I mean, they were just never there. I mean, I can't think of a race this year where Ross had winning pace.
I mean, he very nearly won Nashville.
That's true. Yeah, he finished second.
Yeah, he had a shot at Nashville.
But even that was strategy.
Was it?
Yeah, didn't he take 2 tires and did he? Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, he did.
So, I mean, Trackhouse just as a whole, the teardown, they did say this, that it seems like Chip Ganassi racing again.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and it's both cars.
Are you surprised?
Am I surprised? I mean, I don't know.
It's a yes or no question.
I wouldn't say like.
Okay, you shouldn't. I'm going to skip to the answer. You shouldn't be. This was always going to happen with the next gen car. Yes, you have Harrison Burton win a random race. You have Chase Briscoe win a random race, but Hendrick and Gibbs, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but they have. I did not expect them to be as many steps as they are behind Hendrick and Gibbs. That's the thing. Like, it seemed like, especially when you come out the gate strong, you have a year, the first year in next gen, where you have both cars make the playoffs. I mean, that we heard it all last week. That pays dividends in the following years. Like Harrison Burton, I mean, how many millions of dollars of a swing is that for Wood Brothers? And it's the same thing for Trackhouse. Like, so I just didn't expect them to be this far off, especially as fast as the one car was last year at the beginning of the year, and as fast as both of them were in 2022. It just, yeah, I don't know.
I get that, but like, really, you mentioned the beginning of the year, but since, I don't know, the All-Star Week 23, obviously they've had the Ross had the 2 wins, but surrounding that, they didn't do anything. And obviously Daniel won this year, but that was Atlanta. They've had like 4 solid weekends and 30, 48 races or whatever. My math's bad on this one, but
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things, man. I don't know. It's just a weird deal. I didn't expect. No shot. I thought Ross Chastain was going to miss the playoffs this year. And as far as Bubba goes, I think that they need to step it up. Hey, it's time, dude. You shouldn't be missing the playoffs. Like as good as they've been the last few weeks, there's too many mistakes made earlier in their year. Chris Buescher, again, I kind of feel the same way. Yeah, you shouldn't be missing the playoffs. I mean, these are all 3 of those teams are teams that I feel like they are all in the same realm of tier. They're all in the same tier. Yeah. I feel like, and neither one of them should be missing. Anthony, I know you got to go here in a second. Give us a quick synopsis on this, and then we'll let you go free.
Yeah, I mean, if you had told me that Daniel Suarez would have been locked in the playoffs week 2, and Ross Chastain would have spent the next 24 weeks scrapping and fighting for a playoff spot, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought it'd probably be backwards.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, it's not really. I don't think it's a secret that Ross Chastain, I think, seemed to be the leader of the 2 drivers. At least going into this season. I think that's a fair assessment. And the fact that, I mean, Daniel Suarez, he got in at Atlanta, and then to worry about it the rest of the year. Now, he's also said, he's come out and told me when I've gone to the racetrack that some of these cars are some of the slowest that he's ever driven. Yeah. So there's clearly an issue there. Yeah. I agree. I don't think there's any excuse to not be in the playoffs. Kyle Busch, same thing, but at the same time, I mean, he just couldn't get out of his, it was one thing after another, and half of them weren't even his fault. So that's a little, that's different. I mean, Chris Buescher, he criticized the playoff system last night. From what I heard, I haven't really delved too much into post-race stuff from yesterday. But like, dude, you know the rules, and you've taken advantage of the winning you're in by winning at Pocono in 2016. Obviously the top 30 rule exists and you had to fight for the top 30, but still, you've been on that side too. You've also been on the side where you've already won your way in with a good team like RFK. And, with Brad Keselowski making it at Darlington, to Chris Buescher's misfortune, it felt like he was right there. In Kansas, that was another one. Just a couple points here and there, and he could have been in. There's no excuse.
I think. Good.
I mean, and then you think about like Martin Truex Jr. He almost didn't make it because he made a dumb mistake on lap 3 or whatever it was. He almost didn't make it because he made a move he didn't need to. There was no need to make a move like that. Ty Gibbs, he almost didn't make it because his engines out of all the Toyotas were just the worst, apparently, with the engine issues. They found the engine issues, and fortunately he could make it. Now we can see if he could maybe win a race, because we all thought he would by now. But I mean, the long story short is like these guys did what they had to do, and it sucks for Buescher and Wallace and Kyle Busch, because I think without without Cindric and Briscoe and Burton winning their ways in, they would be in on points.
Yeah.
So, but that's the nature of the playoff system we've been given. And
even Joey, Joey wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Joey was in trouble for a while too. Yeah. So, I mean, they all would have been in on points, and it wouldn't have been an issue. And, I know I didn't touch on Bubba, but man, Bubba's pit crew, like, they need 2311 needs wholesale changes within the pit crew. Because it seems like every week, every time he gets a fast car, it gets wiped out by the pit crew, and then he gets back in positions where he doesn't need to be, and then he gets run into from behind by Noah Gragson, like he did last night. So, easily
Always Noah.
Yeah, easily it coulda, woulda, shoulda for any of those guys who missed the playoffs. But the system has been in place for how many years now, and you didn't do your job for 26 weeks, and now you're on the outside looking in. Now you just have to go out and try to win the next 10.
Yeah, that both Bubba and Chris Buescher were in a spot where they had limited opportunities just because of how the lack of speed at the very beginning of the year. And there's a lot of opportunities squandered by just lack of speed. And then,
in fairness to Buescher,
both of them were points racing, and it's like you know how you gotta win. Like you have to have the objective of winning.
Yeah. Well, that's worse that's worse for the 23 team because they weren't having the wholesale engine issues at that point that Ford was. All the Fords were slow as can be early in the season, and so you got to look at that as well. That really sucks for the most
cars in the playoffs.
That's so odd.
5 Toyotas, 5 Chevys, and 6 Fords. Wow. Daniel Suarez is the only non-Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet in the playoffs,
and that's going to last 3 weeks.
I'm not buying that. They've been quick. They've been quicker lately,
but they don't execute.
Oh yeah, I mean that's you. I have confidence that they can execute.
Racing.
I have confidence that they can execute better than the 21-14 and.
Are they going to hire Chad Johnston for the crew chief role next year?
I don't know. Either way, my point of saying that was a lot of people are saying, well, that sucks that Ross missed it and Daniel gets in because of his win. Well, 99's been running better than the 1 for really the last 10 weeks. I mean, Ross has been out the lunch. There are only a couple positions difference in points. So it's
yeah, it's a weird thing to point out when Ross also needed to win to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
I know a few guys won and pushed the cut line back, but still, like,
it's either way.
Yeah,
you hit the nail on the head, Anthony. They know the rules when they come in. You got to win a race, and
that doesn't make the rules not suck ass, though.
Oh, that absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it is when it does get hard when you're in that mid tier, when you're not a Gibbs or a Hendrick car or when you're not in the top 8 to 10 of those cars that are fast every single week. It gets tough because you are stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's like, do we take the chance to go out and win a race, maybe step on our own dick and lose a bunch of points, or do we points race and hope no one wins? So it's definitely a catch-22, but these are, I don't know, I feel like these are 3 drivers that miss that, in my opinion, have no business missing. No matter who wins. So,
yep.
Anthony, I know you got to go. I appreciate you coming on, and I'll try to get you on next week after, where are we going? Atlanta.
Hell yeah. No, I love coming on with y'all, so looking forward to the next one, of course.
Sounds good. All right.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah,
Bye,
man.
Gary.
Hi, Gary.
And we're back.
Yeah, let's talk regular season championship. I know it's your favorite thing to talk about.
I love how
Hold on.
Hang on.
No. I want to set this up. Right. Which moment do you attribute to Kyle Larson missing out on winning the regular season title? Let me give you some options. Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Missing Charlotte.
Yeah.
You guys know. Michigan, busting his ass. Whatever the fuck happened in Iowa.
Daniel Suarez wrecking him.
Was Daniel Suarez wrecking him? Oh, yes. That's not what happened. Oh no, I was thinking of somewhere. I wasn't thinking of that.
That is
thinking of him. Yeah. Well, either way, what do you attribute to?
Well, considering it was the answer is all the above, but clearly he missed by 1 fucking point. So if he had literally just started Charlotte,
he gets 1 point.
What's hilarious is a few weeks later, I went on this whole thing about how Denny Hamlin should have just stayed home. He only scored 1 more point than not showing up. And then 1 point.
Did I not make a point?
Yeah, you fucking did.
I definitely
literally said that.
What if he... I definitely... Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's got to be frustrating for the 5 team, especially if, I mean, obviously he's atop the playoff standings, but it's,
But ultimately, there were plenty of other opportunities to make those points up, like you mentioned. Michigan last weekend, he finishes, I don't know, he finished in a spot where he got one. Yeah, he doesn't wreck. Even if he finishes 15th or whatever, that's enough.
Yeah. Nashville. That's what I was thinking of, not Iowa. Nashville.
They still finished 8th at Nashville, especially when everyone else ran out of gas. Tyler Reddick finished 2nd.
If he doesn't wreck everybody.
Yeah, he would have finished like 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moments where you can go back and look, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's Tyler Reddick. The big story was he couldn't finish off the deal and get in victory lane. He wins Talladega, then still couldn't finish off the deal and get back to victory lane, but he was still consistent. And 5 team, I mean, this just seems to be their MO ever since Next Gen came about. They can win. They can lead a lot of laps, but they can't get over the fact that Kyle Larson is driving the race car and he does dumb shit sometimes.
Well, I mean, if you want to really look at it, 22 I call a wash just in general, and he was gonna be 2nd in the regular season championship that year, and then of course his engine miraculously blew up on lap 15 the week after he pissed off Chase Elliott. I'm sorry, that just seemed super coincidental to me.
Yeah, but he makes it to the round of 8 and makes it to Phoenix. Does he not just forget where the wall is at the Roval?
Yeah, I mean, and running for nothing. But okay, so Kyle did a bunch of silly, stupid shit there, but I kind of call it a wash because a lot of guys did a lot of stupid shit that year because it was kind of a stupid year in general. Just kind of the nature of it. You look at last year, they literally, the math said they had, on average, they were the fastest car every lap.
Yeah.
Like in a general sense, not every single time, but generally they were the fastest per lap. Last season, I'd be shocked if that's not the same thing this year. And at the very least, even missing a race, the race that paid the most points, they missed out by 1 point. Yeah. So that means, ironically, I don't think anyone's brought it up. That means the 5 car won the regular season title,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes, they did. Yeah. That's why Kyle tweeted yesterday when Denny said, I finally won a championship. And Kyle said, well, you kind of didn't.
So that's funny. So, I mean, ultimately, does it suck because he should have won the race yesterday? And of course, the next gen car being the next gen car. I mean, I'm sorry. Look, I had to read enough shit about Kyle choking or whatever. I know that's, it's the funny thing, whatever. Kyle does find a way to not win a lot. But like, the fuck was he supposed to do at the end of the race? He chooses the bottom. Hang on. He chooses the bottom because everybody, any logic would tell you that you can't be in the same lane as Ross Chastain because he's on old tires. We're at Darlington. That makes sense. And of course, Ross does get a good jump. And then you're on the bottom and you're kind of just stuck on the bottom. And then you're side by side with another car, which also just doesn't work in next gen cars. You just don't go fast. And then Briscoe sends it 3 wide. Great move, made it stick, but he's in the middle. What the fuck is he supposed to do? It's just, my whole thing about that is point to me the moment what Kyle Larson was supposed to do differently there. I guess take the top.
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm not challenging anything about the Southern 500. I mean,
I'm just frustrated about it.
Here's the thing, and it's in defense of Kyle, to the people who say, well, he doesn't win a lot of the races he should win. Well, he's kind of up there in the contention to win a lot more races than everybody else. So yeah, typically he's gonna lose a lot more that he doesn't that he should than everybody else. So yeah, if you're in contention to win 15 races out of the year, it's hard to win cup races. And if you squander 10 opportunities, okay, that's better than insert driver name here who has 3 shots to win and squanders 2 of them. Yeah, you're not going to talk about that. Like, yeah, so I don't know.
Yep.
Tyler Reddick, it is impressive that 2311 has just the on the absolute, like, just completely on track performance. And by on track, I don't mean on the racetrack. I mean just on track of where Denny Hamlin predicted they would be. He said in 5 years we need to be championship contenders. Here we are, year 5, and Tyler, is it year 5, year 4, year 4?
Yeah,
year 4. Tyler Reddick's the regular season champion. So I don't know. It's
that means the team still has next year to get the regular season championship.
Yeah. I feel like there are too many people on here waiting for my reaction if Tyler Reddick won the race or the regular season title for me to not at least get a little bit pissed off about it. I laughed really hard when I thought he shit himself, and I think I was more pissed off that I found out he didn't shit himself than I was that he won the regular season title.
Yeah, that was super disappointing to find out.
Well, hang on. Also, he almost did the same fucking thing he did last year at Darlington to someone else. I don't remember who it was, but he almost misses pit road. Or almost missed it. He did miss it last year because he sucks. He almost fucking stepped on his own dick and jammed on the brakes and caused a wreck in the middle of the corner last night, just like he did last year. The dude never learned. Never learned.
Maybe it's just because, well, never mind. Maybe he was just trying really hard not to shit.
I guess, dude. I guess.
Like, I don't know. Trying to drive like that's tough.
Yeah. Well, look.
What amazes me is that he actually didn't do it and said he did. Even if I did it, you couldn't waterboard that kind of information out of me, and he didn't do it and just said it. Like,
I'm of the belief that he actually did, and he was just like, no. I could probably.
I'm sure he was just like walking around, and like Michael Jordan was giving him a hug and shit. I'm guaranteeing you he didn't.
Yeah,
I'm guaranteeing you he didn't.
Yeah. I guess you're probably right. Probably right.
It would have been like a 40-foot gap.
If you want to, you want to equate it to the Michael Jordan flu game.
Did he shit himself?
No, but he had the fucking flu.
Yes, he did have the flu.
So I mean, it was a drive by Tyler Reddick. I'm not going to give it any positive adjectives to it. But if I'm being completely honest, he got lucky on winning the regular season. He got lucky that caution came out because he was going to finish outside the top 10. Had all those that rash of cautions not happen, and yeah. So I don't know.
Yep.
I don't really have much to say. This race was frustrating. The wreck with Josh. I guess we'll break down the wreck with Josh Berry and Denny Hamlin and everybody. I don't blame Josh Berry for going 3 wide. I do blame Denny Hamlin for having no awareness that they were 3 wide.
He gave him room. He literally did.
He gave him room and bust his ass. That's what happened. So, I
don't know. I just think if we made it possible to pass, then we wouldn't have shit like this happen every week.
Yeah, that's fair. And as far as anything else that happened in the race, I don't know. Kyle Busch. We did answer the question on how loud the cheers would be if Kyle Busch won the race, or at least got close, and it was pretty loud. It was pretty universal that they wanted Kyle Busch to beat Chase Briscoe. So we answered that question.
I don't know if they cared so much that it was Chase Briscoe and they just wanted Kyle Busch to win or not, but I know you cared it was Chase Briscoe more.
I did
than everybody else did. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I was torn because I was like, I like Kyle Busch, but like I just didn't like the idea of Richard Childress being happy.
I didn't really care for the idea of Stewartt Haas Racing getting back in victory lane. You guys pretty much put zero effort into putting Kevin Harvick in a position to win last year. But despite that, Kevin Harvick and Roddy Childress took 25th place race cars and made the playoffs with it and had several opportunities to go to victory lane. And now all of a sudden, you guys want to put some fucking effort in. So, Stewartt Haas Racing, good riddance. I hope you are early exit in the playoffs. Yeah, not bitter at all about that.
No, not even a little bit.
No. Other than that, I don't really have much else to add about Darlington. We're gonna, I guess, do playoff predictions later on this week. That is the plan.
Yes, it is the plan.
We're gonna get on here and let you guys know who we think's gonna win.
I keep forgetting the playoffs are just now starting. To be honest,
it does seem like that. Yeah. And yeah, sundress and dumbass.
My sundress is going to be Sheldon Creed for doing everything in his power to win that race, and then of course it didn't happen because I don't know what Sheldon Creed did in a past life, but
Sheldon Creed was had to be nothing short of an absolute dictator in the past life for the amount of just hell that he has to go through to win one of these fucking races.
Yeah, I had a hell of a weekend on that front.
Let's see. Sundress for me. Well, I don't know.
Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Shane Van Gisbergen. He did have a great top 10 run in the Xfinity race, and then he finished 26th in the Cup race, which is,
that's not too bad.
He beat his teammate, and yeah, I mean, he was dog ass last for most of the race and finished 26th. So we'll talk more about that on the rundown down under this week. Dumbass.
What did I rate? Oh yeah, the general public for thinking that was a good race.
Fair.
And Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck for thinking it was a good race.
Okay. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Tyler Reddick for not shitting himself, because we've seen the playbook for not shitting himself, because there's the play. Tony Stewart shit himself at Watkins Glen 2004, won the championship the next year. Ryan Blaney, you can't convince me otherwise. Shit himself at the Bristol Dirt Race 2022, won the championship the next year. Maybe Tyler's
such a stretch. That is such a fucking stretch.
Maybe, just maybe, Tyler Reddick thinks he can win the championship this year, which, God willing, it won't happen. But if you would have shit yourself last night, you maybe have been a shoo-in for next year's title. So,
dude, I am fucking flabbergasted.
You guys don't know
I was like,
story?
How does he make this leap? I was like, I knew what he was going to, or I knew who he was going to talk about. I was like, I don't know how he's going to talk about it because he didn't win that race. So no. I was about to say that I think this pretty much proves that Ryan Blaney didn't shit himself because he didn't win that race. Tyler Reddick didn't shit himself, didn't win the race. Shitting yourself means you win the race.
No,
Ryan Blaney didn't do it.
Means you win the championship the next year. Ryan Blaney shit himself at the Bristol Dirt Race. He had a large venti coffee.
He did not.
During the rain delay at Bristol Dirt, and you can't tell me as the moving and the
news, buddy.
He definitely shit himself, dude. I'm convinced.
Fake news. He had like half of like a brew at home coffee and poured the rest out on the racetrack.
No.
I saw it with my eyeballs.
No. Look. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
It's not even a good story. It's like
great story.
Not even that funny.
Great story.
You're like, hey, Ryan Blaney shit himself, and people go, "Where'd you hear this?" And you're like, "I just made it up." And they go, "Okay."
Pick for Atlanta.
Okay, so Chuck gets to go first since he won, and he picked. Who did he pick? Austin Cindric. Yes. Chuck picked Austin Cindric. I think you get to go next because I picked
He's
Carson Hocevar and he
picking-
wrecked. So,
Oh shit! I was not prepared. We could pick whoever the fuck we want, and Chuck picked Austin Cindric.
it is Atlanta.
It is Atlanta.
I love how he asked me if he had to pick a playoff car and then proceeded to pick a playoff car.
I'm gonna go with where the races in this round: Watkins Glen and Bristol. Yeah, well, I'm gonna go with Ryan Blaney.
I'm going with Kyle Busch. Just because that
Solid.
would be hilarious
That would be hilarious.
and mildly devastating for him, I would imagine. But also, he'd probably just be happy that he won.
I think that's all we got.
Pretty much. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. So.
So that's been the show. We do have a lot of fun stuff coming later this week. If you're listening to this, we've already uploaded a pure sound from our trip to Florence. Been around Dale Earnhardt Jr. obviously in his run in sub drop number 3. We have the rundown from Down Under coming. We have pure sound for Shane Van Gisbergen from Darlington. That's going to be fun. We have On Tour coming on this week. We have Push the Pass later this week. We have playoff predictions as well as a playoff bandwagoners guide. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And most importantly, go fuck yourself.
Bye, Gary.